So when we're at the rock face of reality, when we find ourselves in that situation where we can't escape ourselves and that we have to actually face who we truly are, it can bring up a lot of resistance, and thoughts, feelings, and emotions come to the fore immediately. And with that immediacy, they're also accentuated as well, to the point where any small emotion, even the slightest provocation or the slightest of emotion, can be the catalyst for just a huge explosion. Almost in a sense, an extreme domino effect, where by the dropping of one domino, the entire edifice of what we thought we were just comes crashing. And what we then find is a lot of our so-called ideas on spirituality, or what we feel we are as people, or what we are as a character, our personality, is completely challenged. And this domino effect leads to just everything falling apart. But what doesn't fall apart is what we actually are. And sometimes we build these amazing structures. We build these castles that we spend many, many years devoted to, that we are constantly changing with our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our ideas on how we should be. And we invest very, very deeply into this character. And after a while, we forget we created our own God. And we will fight anybody who tells us otherwise. So upon hearing this, it can seem like an attack on the story, on the personality, on who we actually are. And we don't like feeling uncomfortable. But when we find ourselves in this place of uncomfortableness, as I said, when we find ourselves at that rock face of reality, where we realize that we can't turn away, and that we're finally going to have to take responsibility for our lives, it can be quite a difficult and uncomfortable place to be. However, if we're able to allow ourselves to sit with that uncomfortableness, we may find wonders in our uncomfortableness, and we find that our story isn't true. And as we start seeing our story falling apart, we find that it's being replaced by an ever-increasing freedom. We find that we're not this limited story. And the story then, in a sense, becomes alive in the truest sense, that we realize that we're not stuck with this static story that we've spent years investing in, but that story can change as and how. And we find that the story is freeing. And that's something that's been experienced recently. And the knock-on effect of that is I find that I'm now registering more, I'm feeling more, there's a greater intimacy with the moment, and I'm allowing myself to feel so much more. I'm hearing things that have probably been said to me 1,000 times, but I'm now registering those comments that are being made to me. And I feel I'm being seen, and I feel I'm being heard. And that makes this idea of taking responsibility for my life so much more easier. When we stop seeking, we realize there's nothing that we can rely on. There is no outside authority, a guru or a story or an excuse or a reason that holds in this space of wholeness. And that can be quite a frightening proposition for a mind in separation, a story in separation, because we do feel that we're going to lose absolutely everything. And if we're going to lose everything, then our darkest fears are going to come true. And that isn't necessarily the case. As we drop this story, as we drop this adherence to this illusory existence called life, what we find is that there is this freedom. And this intimacy with the moment, from which you're not separate, allows us to see ourselves as we truly are. I have over the years struggled with this whole idea of compliments. And recently I was talking to a young man, as we were talking, he complimented me. And it was very, very interesting because the compliment really hit. Like, I really felt this compliment. And I was able to acknowledge that and accept that, which was something relatively new. And since then, people have been speaking to me and really speaking to me in a very real and intimate manner, whereby they're really saying what they want to say. And I'm actually hearing them. But in that hearing them, I'm finding that I'm protected, I'm taken care of. I have this beautiful group of people around me who really support what I do. And that in turn is making me want to write and making me want to record videos. But it's also making me realize that there is only now, and the only place to be is now, however uncomfortable sometimes that may be. And if we can sit with that uncomfortableness, we then find that that uncomfortableness is replaced by this great freedom, in which this expansiveness that we are is being experienced constantly in a moment by moment basis. Call it enlightenment, liberation, or whatever you want to. And it is perfectly ordinary, which makes it so incredibly profound. And as I said, I'm being seen, I'm being heard. But consequently, I'm now listening as well, because I can feel a conversation. As I said to somebody earlier on today, I can put out these videos and I can put out content, and most of you know that obviously there is this channel and there's quotes and writings, and it can be done quite mechanically. But now I feel so grateful for this, that I'm being heard, I'm being seen, I'm being listened to, and consequently I'm also seeing and I'm also hearing and I'm also listening. And that creates this beautiful conversation. It creates the opportunity for the most intimate of conversations. And in that sense, there's this newfound love for what I'm doing again. I feel I will be talking about what really matters to you, my friends, my listeners, my dearest and dearest of friends. And what's beautiful about that is that then there is a purpose for both sides of the equation. But in that purpose of one who's listening or one who's speaking, we may find that the opportunity exists, that the duality that exists between us just dies. And we see that what is listening is what is speaking, or what is speaking is what is listening. And it is just one. And that is really the whole reason for this work. As many of you know, I've spent quite a bit of time in seclusion for the last year or so, and I'm now coming out and writing and recording these videos. And it's interesting because I feel that I don't want to record these videos, and I don't want to put out any content, and I'm perfectly happy to just sit there quietly. And yet life is showing me that I really have no choice. So it's record that video, it's write that article, it's answer that question. And I feel incredibly grateful for the fact that there is no choice. I also am starting to feel that this idea of this Zahir speaking into a camera and sharing things that are personal are becoming quite irrelevant now, because it really isn't about me. It has never really been about me. It is about this, whatever this is, and this exploration is such a joy. And this character is experiencing joy now, because this character is being seen and heard by other characters, and other characters are listening, and he's now listening as well. And in that, there is this desire emanating from wherever, and I feel even the word desire is too strong, that there's just this need now to just move this character out of the way and to speak so much more clearly about what is. That what is this reality that some of us are seeking and some of us are experiencing, and yet it's actually one reality. It's it's indivisible, it's this universality, it's who we truly are. Now, what is it? What could it possibly be? And that creates this beautiful conversation of one that appears as two. And it's an opportunity to really look at this and to really explore that and to see how everything evolves over time. I'm not who I was 5 minutes ago, and no doubt after this I'll be somebody else. And the way that there's just this deliberate, elegant movement in this moment is absolutely incredible. I did have the intention of recording another video, a completely different video this morning, and then after a session that I was doing, it's led to this video. And I think that's such a beautiful thing, that reality is constantly affecting itself in real time. So I think that's all I want to say about that. Thank you for the wonderful messages that I'm receiving and the feedback about what's being written. I'm truly grateful to all of you. If you are looking to discuss any particular topic, feel free to drop me a message and we can record a video about that. And yeah, let's let this conversation flow now. And if it can flow to that point where there's no you and I, then we're home, only to realize that we're always home.